I'd like to welcome Sheridan Mukoro, who is Magnus's widow and the head of the Magnus Mukoro Foundation, who'll speak a few words about her husband and what she's doing in the community. Thank you.
Just need 2 seconds. Well, good morning, everyone. It's an honor to be here today to highlight. Sorry, I gotta put my reading glasses on. All right, so it's an honor to be here today to highlight and to discuss New York City's crisis of having limited access to swimming safety, especially in Black and Brown communities. Before I begin sharing my personal story to exemplify why learning how to swim can be a life-saving skill, I would like to say thank you to Mike Randazzo and all the other committee members for organizing such an imperative event and for inviting me to be the keynote speaker at today's Aquatics Symposium. Again, my name is Sheridan Jack Brown, the widow of Magnus Mukoro and the founder of the Magnus Mukoro Sports Foundation, a not-for-profit organization I created in honor of my late husband to continue providing safe and fun athletic spaces in New York for New York City youths and families. So 8 years ago, in the summer of 2015, while on vacation with my husband, Magnus Mukoro, and our 2 young children, Josiah and Marley, my husband accidentally drowned in a residential pool at a family barbecue. My husband, he was an athlete. He was an avid soccer player, a devoted youth soccer coach for over 15 years here in the Brooklyn community. But unfortunately, he was not a swimmer, which may have cost him his life. So why didn't my husband know how to swim? Because he didn't have the opportunity nor the privilege to learn this fundamental life skill. According to the CDC, U.S. Center for Disease Control and Prevention, Black Americans drown at a rate 50% higher than white Americans. Additionally, Black children ages 10 to 14 years old drown at rates 7.6 times higher than white children. And nearly 64% of Black children in the U.S. have little or no swimming ability compared to 40% of white children, according to the U.S. Swimming, the national governing body for the American sport of swimming. So why is this the case? I did some research last night and also just knowing some of, things from the past, but because basically over time, dating back to slavery, when slaves were forbidden to swim to prevent them from escaping, Black Americans were historically denied access to pools and beaches. For example, during the Jim Crow era, pools were segregated and there were fewer affordable swim classes for Black families. And throughout the country, public swimming pools were predominantly in white communities. And to date, Black families are denied access to private swim clubs around the country. Hence why thousands of New Yorkers have been deprived of this fundamental skill, and one of the many reasons why we are here today. It's also one of the reasons why the Magnus Mukoro Sports Foundation, we encounter so many difficulties and setbacks trying to create and maintain an affordable swimming program, especially for adults, to help decrease the percentage of Black Americans who are drowning. So it's my hope and prayer that today's Aquatics Symposium will bring attention to all of these critical issues and eventually help to create an aquatic culture in New York City that is beneficial, affordable, and accessible to all New Yorkers. So again, thank you for allowing me to share with you my story today. And that's it. So I'm going to turn it over to Cynthia to continue this discussion. And again, thank you for having me here today.
Good morning, everyone. I am so excited to be here. My name is Cynthia McKnight. I am the president and Brooklyn Borough president for Community Education Council 13. We consider ourselves an anti-racist district, and we believe in having equity and opportunities for all our children, especially Black and Brown. We had the pleasure last school year to partner with Michael ICW because we realized that a lot of our students, the statistics was actually a lot higher in Brooklyn with Black and brown kids who do not know how to swim. And I reached out to Perry, a very strong advocate for education and a community leader. And he was like, I have the perfect person to partner with. Over 800 kids applied to the program. We didn't even have enough space. And one of the reasons is that a lot of our students, we have Title I schools where that means 60% of the students come from very low income families and they could not afford swim classes. It's very, very expensive to go to the private market and we didn't want it to be a barrier, so we made it free. So that's why I'm here today. And I'm so grateful that now we will have this opportunity, all of us as Think Partners, to come up with solutions to talk about how we can address this critical issue. Just yesterday, an autistic kid drowned in Red Hook. And one of the other things, we're happy that I see District 75 here because at our program, we had autistic kids, kids in District 75. We're very inclusive, but we're only just one district. And we want to expand this throughout the city and let us be a model for this country. I do want to thank Crystal Hudson, the council member for District 35. She is supporting, in her budget, she supported PS 46, one of our Title I elementary schools. So, but we need much more. So I just want to turn it over to us, to everyone here. And I want to thank you again for being here. This is like an open discussion. So we'll have questions, but we want to hear everyone's voice. And I know people streaming online, I guess, Michael, if they have a question, they could put it in the chat
So,
if they want to include their voice.
There is streaming online. You can put questions into the chat, but first and foremost, the idea is that we can all sit around the table. So
Yes.
please feel free. It
Yes.
does have a top maybe by the window, but really, if you will, just fill in anyone and everyone, because the biggest point, we had a lot of conversations about this, is to make for an egalitarian, a non-hierarchical, use your term, an open roundtable discussion. So please, I invite you all to, there's seats up front here. You are all, if you're in this room, you
Yes,
are part of the
please.
conversation.
Yes.
So please join it. So, and yeah, come on up. Right.
So I wanted to just start off the conversation with the question. Question one, New York City beaches and pools and lifeguards. Where are we now and how did we get here? And you could feel free to just go to a microphone and just talk. I know we have Janet Fash from New York City Lifeguard. I know we have Vlad Frankel, RC certification process opportunities, Rabbi Yaakov Raskin. And
so why don't we start with Vlad? Vlad, if you want to come up
Yes.
here, and I'll do a little intro. Vlad is the Midwood High swim coach, right? And you guys did well this year, right? Yeah, have a seat, please. Yeah. And I've worked with some of his swimmers as instructors, but more importantly, he is a fantastic, in my opinion, Red Cross certifier. And this summer he worked with 14 high school and college students who wanted to get certified, and we found a little bit of money, but more importantly, we found pool time to make it happen. And in fact, they're all working. So Vlad, if you would just want to kick us off and talk about that experience working between pools, getting kids ready to work in the private pool system.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me, Michael. So I've been with aquatics since 15 years old, almost 23 years ago now, teaching swimming, became a lifeguard through a phys ed class. Now I'm a phys ed teacher at a high school. I also coach a Midwood High School swim team. So taught a couple of thousand kids how to swim, all about water safety. I'm a swim guy like almost everyone else is in here. So the problem is there's not enough pool space. There's not enough pool time. I teach also for the Red Cross, and I gather groups, I get kids excited that are around swimming or about water safety, and they're looking for summer jobs, summer camps or whatever. So I coordinate or organize these classes, it's just myself, and I have to look for pool space. It costs a lot of money, private pool space, hotels, anywhere. I search everywhere because I want to give kids the opportunity to get a job. As we know, there's not enough lifeguards. There's beaches are closed, many pools are closed. There's not enough staff. Kids are either not certified or they have no interest in teaching. So again, I have to look for pool space. Obviously, I can't come up with the funds myself. It's a challenge. So then we put the cost on the kids. Now it's another turnoff. They don't have the $300-400 to come up with and get certified and potentially get a job. So that's the main issue. Michael, I've been working with him and Perry for almost a year now, doing some classes. And this year he came up with an idea. He said, hey, let's just do a class for free. Let's just fund it. Let's look for funding, try to come up, with a solution and get kids certified and get them jobs for the summer. So we had over 100 applicants that showed up. It was a huge turnout. Kids are interested. They want to do this. They want to, be aware and possibly save someone's life around them, or, and avoid tragic accidents, as we heard. So we were able to, Michael was able to find funding and pool space, which is another huge challenge. And we were able to certify 15 lifeguards. Couldn't take all 100 because, again, it's, takes a lot of time and pool space. And then they're all working now. And they're spreading the awareness about aquatic safety and, prevent from things like that happening.
I'm sorry, I'm jumping in and I will be jumping in, but to find the pool time, that was the biggest challenge. We had a partner that we thought we could work with. They declined to continue with a program that we thought was beneficial. So we ended up working in the Limon Manhattan pool. Carl, do you know these? There's 2 of them, 4 lanes, very small. And then also Dave in the back, you know that, right? And then also we found this kind of an oasis in Midwood near Brooklyn College, the Philip Howard Cooperative Pool. It is a private situation. It has a 9-foot deep circumstance. And so I just point this out that sometimes the collaborations, the opportunities, you just got to seize them. We were fortunate enough. Jermaine Parkinson, who was overseeing that pool, was able to get us in there. So a lot of what I think we're all doing is finding ways to get into a specific pool, afford it, because let's face it, water is not cheap, and then, get the maximum benefit. So, and on that note, I'm just going to jump because, if you don't mind, Derica, I want to do Derica. Sorry. Thank you. Yeah. If I mispronounce your name, because you're working on an interesting project that is also involved with this idea of finding water. You have the kids. It looks like you're going to have the funding. And the question is, where can you do that? If you just want to talk a little bit about you, and please use the mic because the people on Zoom can hear you. So.
Just a quick note, your mic is off, if you could turn it on.
Can you hear me now? All right.
Yes, indeed.
Let's start over. All right, I'll start from scratch. All right, so my name is Derica Hendon Barnes, and I am here representing Ironman Foundation. And I'm an Ironman triathlete, and I've been doing this for about 10 years. And I am partnering with Ironman Foundation, which is a separate organization from the Ironman Foundation or Ironman organization. And they do fundraising for underserved communities all across the globe. And I decided to partner with them this year to raise money for swim lessons for kids, to get them back in the water, or not get them back, but get them in the water, get them access, and make it kind of fair and equitable for kids to learn how to swim, primarily in Black and brown communities, because just like we've heard a couple of times already, that these pools are not in our areas. I was born and raised in Vegas, which is probably one of the hottest cities in America. And there was no pool in my area, in my neighborhood. We had to travel across town to get there. But circling back to the point of Ironman Foundation, I'm raising money to get get lessons for kids. So far to date, I've raised about $1,500, and about $100 will probably get, I think, one kid, maybe 15 or 20 lessons. So we're doing a huge thing here, and I want to do my part. Additionally, my sorority, Sigma Gamma Rho, has partnered with USA Swimming to get kids swim lessons. It's called Swim 1922. They've had this program in place for about 5 years, I believe, and it's been a huge success. And my organization all across the country is doing their part to get kids swim lessons. And we have partnered with some elite Olympian swimmers that are willing to pitch in their time to help donate to kind of balance out the equitable access. And also work at DOE as well.
Thank you. Thanks so much for sharing. Harry Klung, if you can jump in and talk about the challenges of swim teams finding practice competition pool time. Yes.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah.
I learned to swim in a city pool in Sunset Park. And it was free and it was a joy. Subsequently, I joined a swim team in high school and I swam in college also. And I had an opportunity to coach part-time at the St. Francis College and more recently Xavier High School. And the Xavier High School just now, since COVID, did not have a pool that could accommodate divers, which means it needs a deep well at one side of the pool. And it's a shame because they didn't have a complete program because no diving. So anything to promote that, I'd like to help. Thank you.
Thank you, Harry.
Harry, before you go, just one of the things that I've experienced trying to run programs for kids is when you think you have a contract with somebody and then it turns out that pool that you think you have a contract at for someone else is going to pay more for that. You have swim teams. I mean, how have you dealt with these kind of challenges when, well, you had Carl at St. Francis, so that was a big, but I assume that Xavier, when they're running their swim team practices, they're not practicing in the same pool all the time, that you have to cobble together a schedule to find places so you can be a competitive team. You can talk a little bit to that point.
Well, I will, but I don't have very much to add. All that was done by the faculty at Xavier High School. I came in as a volunteer, and so I can't shed much light on that.
But just as an example, at St. Francis, Harry's head swimming coach would use, because of the way the divers, I'm a swim coach, I could yell. What they did was, everyone has to adjust. So what they did was, the swimmers had 4 lanes, the divers had 2. And they pulled the lane lines over, and even the space that wasn't used at the shallow end, the swim coach would work on turns or relay starts. So there were different ways that they could make this fly. And then if the team wasn't there, and I had a group of beginner swimmers at one end of the pool, Harry would come in with his divers and use the deep end.
That's good.
That's correct.
Carl, to that point, you're constantly improvising, and you kind of just put Carl on the spot here a little bit, understand that there's a landscape of competitive Catholic public school teams. If you don't have a pool in your building, like Bidwood, right? No, they don't have a pool. Okay, so you're using somebody else's pool, Jefferson has a pool, but if you don't have that pool, you're on the market and you're competing against for-profit vendors who are going to pay market rates. So if you want to talk, I'm just curious about that. I'm interjecting a point, but
it's kind of, the whole swimming situation in New York City is complex. And I don't want to really, that's why I didn't really put notes together. I didn't know what actually kind of form it was going to be. Dave Gardello may want a couple hours for his swimming team. He may get from me at the college when we were open. Now we're not, which is a whole nother story. He'd get an hour and a half, or he'd split it with Packer Collegiate Institute. And St. Francis would not really be out to kill them, using them that no longer exist in the business, but maybe it'd be $300 rental, which for those people who know, it's not an awful lot of money. And it's really just to keep the sport alive, or the opportunity alive for those kids, and to give them the skill sets that they need to, one, compete, or just to learn the basic skills of swimming. And that's what Harry was doing with diving, and even getting someone from the diving board to the side of the pool. Those first couple of practices become very stressful for me, because I was always present. I had to be, because I wanted to check on Harry, make sure he knew what he was doing. And I wanted to make sure the kids knew how to get from the side, after diving board, to the side of the pool. Even for swimming meets, one would assume everyone can swim, but those people who are in the swimming world know that that's not the case. But in terms of usage, we would blend groups together, which my college sometimes frowned upon, but we had insurance certificates from both. We sometimes ran scuba underneath while people were swimming. I'd have wounded warriors at one end of the pool and the water polo team at the other end. So there's ways to do this, but you have to be creative, and you have to be, you have to have good staff, and you have to really want to do it, because if you don't, someone's going to get left out. Am I answering your question?
You are, absolutely. Because I think, and again, as we talked about the structure for this discussion, we wanted to do a little bit of leveling, as it were. I had hoped that Janet Fash, who is one of the chief lifeguards for the City of New York Parks Department, was going to join us. She hasn't made it yet. She is supposed to be here. She could talk to the other side of the equation, the manpower aspect, and we'll probably talk about that after we have a little bit of a break for more refreshments. I did want to toss it over to Rabbi Raskin, because I met him for the first time, and you had, and do you want to get to the mic, had a very specific, but guess what, a really large need that affected your day camp, but actually probably affects a lot of day camps throughout the city.
Are we on? Oh, we're on. Well, first of all, thank you again for the opportunity. This idea actually really started with Roberta at a synagogue kiddush, as we call it. It was before the summer, and in the past, St. Francis was gracious enough to allow our camp to use their facility. Our camp, I mean, I've been running the camp for around 7 years, but the camp has actually been around for around 20-something years. And we've been on and off at St. Francis. We were using Red Hook Pool pre-COVID. And when I was down at the Parks Department, they said that they weren't going to be opening the pool. They had no definite date if they would be opening up the pool towards camps or any sort of organized organization. They would be opening the pool just for, individuals.
Mm-hmm.
So that knocked out a bunch of camps, not just our camp. So we're down here, but there's also Young Judea, which is in Red Hook. There's also Kibbutz Nikim, which is down on Smith Street. A bunch of camps were using that, and they all got stuck now with no facility for water, which on their end allowed them to have to start putting a lot of funds into busing, which really took away from their from their pool of money for their other basic activities. So I know a lot of camps are really hurting because of that. They had to cut down on a lot of projects. And then we ourselves were also struggling. So we were lucky for 2 years. We went back to St. Francis, and it was amazing there. And then St. Francis got bought off, that building, and we were really stuck. We had no swimming, and that's, we have our campus works under the synagogue, so we have kids, across the gambit. Some pay, and some come for totally, for free. So we were really trying to get something for these kids, and then we were lucky to meet with Roberta. We did a small, pre-meeting, and we met with Michael, and we got LIU for a little bit. It's not the greatest slot. It's actually 2:00, so it's really at the end of the camp day, but. We didn't have a choice, and it worked out perfectly. It was a great experience. But this is, I guess, it's really a greater, problem here than just our small day camp. I know Packer, which is down the block from us, they totally cut out swimming from their program. So they have they have a giant camp. We have like 30 kids.
Mhm.
They have around, I think, 200, 300 kids, and they totally cut it out. I think St. Anne's also, he was using St. Francis, and I think they also cut out swimming. So a lot of these kids, I mean, these are, I guess you call them, you know, more affluent families. They themselves are having now the same problem that everyone else is, which is that there's not enough facilities to help with water education. And just to end off that, I feel like, you know, people, there's at the one end you have here the diving, which is more like a, you know, a certain skill in swimming, and on the other hand you have kids that can't even learn how to swim.
Mhm.
And you need both, because if you don't have the top, then the bottom gets cut off. If you don't have the bottom, the top gets cut off. So I guess everyone being here together, we can hopefully make this happen. And I want to thank everybody for working together.
Well, and I want to point out that you also are a certified lifeguard. Were you a city certified lifeguard?
I'm just Red Cross,
Okay, got it. But you know, you have an investment,
Yeah.
not just in the.
aquatics director.
Right. Yeah,
Exactly. It's actually funny. I was trying to get one of the kids in the pool. My nephew was in our camp, trying to get him into the pool. He didn't want to go into the pool. I said, you got to get into the pool. Your dad's a lifeguard. Your grandfather's a lifeguard. Your uncle's a lifeguard. It worked.
I see it worked.
So anyways, thank you very much.
All right, well, thank you. I do want to do a shout out, and I as I said, I think we work in tandem. I'm going to walk around the room. I have that perpetual nervous energy. But two of the lifeguards that we worked with this summer, Emiliana and James Gonzalez, are here. Do you want to just stand up? By the way, they're both competitive and very competitive swimmers. And I won't put you on the spot in terms of your feeling about the course, but this to me is the cycle from the little kids in your camp to the athletes and the lifeguards to, you know, careers, the opportunities to stay in the water. Let me just check our time. I really had hoped that Janet would be here with us, but yeah. So we have an opportunity for some more sharing out on this. We have folks from the Red Cross here. I'm sorry, the YMCA, excuse me. Mary, I got it, right? And they have lifeguard approved, because part of the whole equation in this, it's not just access to the pools, it's the fact that we don't have enough lifeguards, both city lifeguards that can work in the parks pools, but even for the YMCAs and the JCCs. So we have an open floor here for a couple of minutes before we get for a quick break. If anybody wants to share out about that issue, both in terms of your experience trying to find water for kids to learn to swim, but also finding opportunities to either hire lifeguards or train lifeguards. So the mics are open. If you just want to find a spot, I'm going to move from this one, come up, give us a little bit of your perspective, your insights about this issue. Don't be shy.
Michael, if I might, I'll start this off because Janet is a dear friend of mine. She's a New York City chief lifeguard. She, as her example, she's probably, she's not as old as I am, but a much younger woman. And she's very, very fit. She's somebody that I always felt that if I was going into a burning building, I'd want her on my back. She would always have my back. She's a strong communicator. She's, as a chief, she ran an operation in Rockaway on the beach that was second to none. She helped organize the Lifeguard Olympics this year, even though she wasn't a beach lifeguard, because she recognized that competition is good for bringing back people for another year and developing skills. So Janet's circumstance was they have a test and you have to take swim a certain amount in a certain time. And even though this good swimmer, she wasn't able to pass the ocean qualifying exam, so she was moved to a city pool. She still has a job. She's still saving lives and working with kids, and she's trying to do the right thing. When you take the city of New York and the Department of Parks has significant issues with the way they administer the exam and the course. As an example, as a young man, I live in Rockaway Beach. I'm as close to the ocean as a building over there. I'm very fortunate. Couple of things. One, I can't go in the water pre-9 o'clock during the summer. I can't go in after 6 o'clock legally. You know what that means. People do go in, but it's risky. And that's where most of the people end up dying or getting caught in a rip current. So there's a young man across the street from me. He's an athlete, goes to Malloy High School, Queens, Rockaway, Malloy. He wants to be a New York City lifeguard. 16 weeks, he went Rockaway, Malloy, New York City, 59th Street. I think the course is back home. 16 times. I mentioned this to my wife, and she said, well, you lived in Flatbush. You went to St. John's Prep. You went home. Home and then into the city and then back again. I mean, you can do it. And crazy people do crazy things, and I wanted to be a beach lifeguard. So I did it. This young man wasn't a swimmer, so he didn't pass the test to be an ocean lifeguard. I don't remember the time, it really is irrelevant. But I see him every morning. His orange pants, little shirt, his backpack, 7 o'clock in the morning, get on the bus to the Liberty Pool in Queens, and then back again. Good for him. Good for him. But we could have made it easier. So for me, access to the pool and opportunities becomes critical, just in the lifeguard scheme of things. If there was a place like Sean has, Far Rockaway High School, you have a class and a situation there to run lifeguard training. And maybe it has to be 16 weeks. I don't know. I don't know why. American Red Cross is significantly less. They're not beach lifeguards, but then again, we're not teaching these people taking this class in the ocean. They don't even see the ocean sometimes until their first day of work. But they could have it at Far Rockaway, as an example. In Brooklyn, you could have it at Brooklyn College. At Manhattan, you could have it at the same place. Out at Orchard Beach, you could have it at Lehman. Out at Queens, you could have it, as long as Corona Park pool is open, maybe for the next 2 years, until it's closed again, you can have it there. And you can build beaches with lifeguards. And that is the real essence. Beyond that, my children were lifeguards, one with Gateway National Park, one in the city of New York. Great experience for both of them. They both enjoyed it. But today's kids, I'm sorry, sound very old. Today's kids, being a college coach, and though it's a good job and you're getting $21 an hour, I think is the current price. When I was a lifeguard, getting old, it was 19 when I started, a day. So, but what am I going to get out of being a lifeguard? I mean, it's a whole lot of things, relationships and such, and money in your pocket. But my point is, I am getting old. The children, high school students and college kids in particular, are looking for internships. They're looking for, if they're in college, they're trying to work at an advertising firm or someplace in the city. So the pool is smaller. And what makes the pool even smaller is that when I was in grammar school, certain schools had a mandate to learn to swim across the state of New York. It's no longer in place. My son went to, thank you God, went to Cornell. And first day he showed up to campus, he had to prove that he could swim 3 laps. Otherwise, he had to take a swim class. It's one of the only schools in the state now that requires this. So your pool of candidates gets smaller. And without all these other programs that Michael runs and that we're trying to facilitate here, you're not going to have the competency in lifeguards and the amount to choose from. So it becomes critical that this discussion goes beyond this room and to people in and the body politic. Because I don't think you can just fabricate these things. Probably taken away from my little presentation, but people have mentioned St. Francis. I was just a facilitator at St. Francis. I was there I went to college there. I coached there right after I was at college. I went into business, but I always coached at night. And then I ended up being an aquatic director and assistant athletic director. But the college provided the space for the community. And that doesn't mean that it can't happen everywhere. I mean, the several St. Francis people here that are graduates, that we grew up in a culture of giving. And we just seemingly, whether you're a basketball player or whatever, you just gave back. And St. Francis mandated Xavier High School. Well, we might get a Xavier High School kid to come to St. Francis. So we wanted those kids to come into the building. So instead of charging $300 an hour, maybe we charge $200. This is in the olden days.
You know, Carl, why don't we stop on that point?
Okay.
Because Janet Bash herself.
Okay.
She's on Zoom. So
Yes.
Cindy's got a reason.
Sorry, Janet.
Yeah, no,
Thank
right?
you. So Janet, the message is, good morning, this is Janet Fash. The New York City Parks program has a rigid 1 day a week training model for 16 weeks, which limits prospective candidates. More training options each as a 40-hour 1 week during college breaks. The union has a stranglehold on the system. Seasonal lifeguards don't get to participate in their union. They want to have coverage in the early morning and the evenings until 7 p.m., like in the past, but the union controls all aspects. The school and the management. Change is difficult. The lifeguard test for pool lifeguards should be a state standard, 300-yard untimed test. The ocean should be the USLA standard for honesty and integrity.
Excuse me, if everybody can take your seats, we're gonna get started on the next question, which is, we've heard about some of the problems and now what are some of the solutions? So everybody, please, and come to the table. Part of the idea with this is that we're all sitting at the same table. While I have the mic and we're getting set up for the next presentation, I just want to do a shout out. Excuse me, Paul. So we've got our two lifeguard trainees and Emiliana and James. If you guys just want to say a few words. Emiliana, you look like you're ready. Your life as an aquatic athlete and, you know, the future that you see, both swimming and not. All right.
Hi, everyone. My name is Emiliana Gonzalez. I've been swimming since I was like 4 years old. At first, I didn't really want to swim. Yeah, but I ended up getting used to the water. I now swim for my club team, Apex Swim Club, in the Bronx, and I swim for my high school, Dominican Academy, here in the Upper East Side of Manhattan. In the foreseeable future, I want to make a D1 college and hopefully represent the USA in the Olympics. So this past summer, my brother and I, we signed up for Michael's training for lifeguarding, and it was kind of it was fun because we've been exposed to water for so much of our life, and so to like be able to know the techniques to be able to save someone in the, you know, in God forbid an emergency is useful for us. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm James also. I'm her brother. Yeah, this summer, I was really thankful to at least learn how to lifeguard because my summer mainly was just, you know, staying home, play video games, enjoy the rest time. But at least doing something productive, at least doing some lifeguarding and learning because as my sister said, we've been in the pool for so long, and it's our turn to give back to what the pool has given to us. So saving people's lives and making, you know, the city a better place, that's a great thing to have and for all teenagers to learn during the summer.
Wow, that was amazing. This is why we're here, for our youth. Thank you. So next, question number 2. The New York City aquatics problems are well known. What are the solutions? I want to start with Crystal Frame from New York City Parks and Recreation Committee.
Michael, do you want me to moderate this or is is Crystal here?
She's right there.
Okay, good.
Sorry, I think we clicked the wrong organization. I'm actually Director of Operations for Tankproof.
Excuse me.
So that's actually good.
Michael asked me to moderate, so I had a sequence in mind.
No, go for it. We just put up
Okay.
the presentation, so you're all
Good.
good.
Thank you. My name's Peter Konstam. I was the Director of Swim for Life for a decade under the jurisdiction of the New York City Parks Department. We partnered with the YMCA. Paul Fontana is my go-to person at the Parks Department. And this morning we heard why the problem we have, mainly that minority children don't know how to swim compared to their white counterparts. It's an equity issue worthy of much public support. So I'm happy that we have some public support on our panel. Jack is representing Council Member Sylvina Brooks Powers with us today. So in 2011, the Swim for Life program was created to reduce the risk of drowning among children in New York City. At our peak, the Swim for Life program had 10,000 second graders who all were attending New York City public schools in the program. We observed during the decade 60,000 second graders. Unfortunately, the number declined during COVID to about 4,500 per year. Basically, second graders were taken out of the school classroom during the middle of the school day to swim in indoor pools when between 10 and 1 o'clock during the day, pools were not heavily utilized. The New York City Department of Education was a major funder. They also provided free bus transportation. We contracted with the YMCA and their network. So it was a very successful program. And in terms of solutions, our panel from 11 to 12, we're going to try to come up with solutions. Some of the reasons that the Swim for Life program declined, one was serious problems with the lifeguard union. Another was the loss of a fiscal conduit so that private money could be used to support non-park schools. In any case, the New York City Parks Department is best positioned to prevent childhood drownings through 3 formal lessons. The Parks Department and the Swim for Life program demonstrated its capability to mobilize nonprofits across the city, raise money from businesses and foundations, and lead other city and state agencies in this equitable cause. So in terms of the first solution, what can we do? Well, I'm pleased our first panelists is Paul and Natalie, and they're going to talk about a resurgence of the Swim for Life program in the upcoming academic year. So Paul, you're our first panelist. The floor is yours.
Can you hear me? Is it on? Where to begin? So I'm Paul Fontana, Chief of Citywide Recreation at Parks. So we're all familiar with the Parks Department. We heard a lot about it today. It's Parks and Recreation. The Parks side is the maintenance and operations side generally. And then the recreation side is the programming side. The programming side is near and dear to our hearts because parks are great, but they're better when they're programmed, especially programmed properly. And of course, that means a lot to swimming because our pools are great. Our 14 miles of beaches are great, but if you don't know how to use them properly, it's a problem. Lifeguards are our partners, but we see a pipeline issue. You know, it's obvious that 2 years of the pandemic, without swimming classes for kids, without swim teams, like there's no path for us to actually recruit lifeguards from. It's not necessarily their fault if people haven't been conditioned for 2 years, but now it's all our collective problems in like kind of fixing that problem and getting people up to that level. Otherwise, we're going to continue to have this problem forever. My heart goes out to, especially Rabbi, who mentioned that his campers couldn't get into pools. We actually have the same issue with our camps. We have 1,000 campers in the Parks network that, this year had severe problems getting into our own pools because of the same issues that everybody else faces. Where we even had to bus our kids to pools that weren't next to where their camp was. It's awkward. But we do it because we know it's important to get these kids in the pool whenever we can. To that end, if there's a silver lining from the pandemic, it's at least it's focused our attention on this problem. And we know now that we really have to make swimming, like ideally in a perfect world, would be part of the DOE curriculum in New York City, to have every kid have some form of swim classes throughout their tenure at school. For us in Swim for Life, with Peter and with Mary, we worked on for years, the second graders are kind of a perfect segue for that. They don't have body image issues. There's no testing, at least not too much at that point in their lives. And if we can motivate an entire classroom full of kids, it's a lot easier than like bringing individuals in to, take swim lessons. Plus, DOE is a great partner there too. They help us bus kids to all these sites. Right now, we actually had a really nice expansion from the mayor's office. They funded a pretty significant expansion for Swim for Life that's going to allow us to actually work in DOE pools with the support of our own lifeguards and provide swim lessons to second graders at their sites. So we're going to go to them and provide swim classes, through 10 sites around the city. We're actually working with DOE now to figure out what pools those are going to be, and hopefully we'll launch in October. It's a good goal. I don't know that all 10 are going to launch in October, but that is our goal right now. We're actually hiring, so it's a good opportunity for folks not only to, we've talked a lot about recruiting lifeguards, but like we need swim instructors too. So it's a good opportunity to become a full-time or even part-time swim instructor through the city. So good union benefits, working for the city, opportunity to grow, that sort of thing as well. And there's a geography to it too. We have a network of pools at parks, obviously, right? The 14 miles of beaches, the 55 outdoor parks, 11 indoor pools. About half of our indoor pools right now are closed for capital construction, and that's a huge problem. It limits our capacity to serve folks all over the city. So the ability now to actually go beyond our pools and teach outside of our network is going to be really helpful in reaching communities that don't necessarily have the resources that we normally do. St. Mary's in the Bronx, for example, is closed. It's going to be closed for a few years. That serves Mott Haven. For us, that's a huge deal because we have no other indoor pool in the Bronx. But through this funding, we're at least going to be able to touch, at least 2 schools in the Bronx, which has a huge impact knock on for not just the second graders, but hopefully get those second graders interested enough in swim to join Mary's program after us, hopefully join swim teams down the road, and then hopefully maybe become lifeguards, but minimally at least know a little bit more about swimming and be safe around the water. Peter, what am I missing?
Well, this is a significant infusion of money for the Swim for Life program. So this is a big opportunity for everybody in the room. If you have candidates who want to become part-time or full-time aquatics instructors, Paul needs them to teach second graders how to swim. We need more lifeguards. So the more we can get the pipeline filled up, we need them. And also, Paul was too kind to say this, but the assistant commissioner is trying to reform some of the problems with the lifeguard union. So the Parks Department needs their support to remove this bottleneck.
Just point of order, so everybody knows that, if I'm not mistaken, in the upcoming fiscal year, the city has approved $5.3 million for the expansion of the Swim to Life program. Is that correct?
That's correct. It's a $5.3 million expansion, mostly that impacts staff. It more or less doubles our number of aquatic staff. So 10 pools is good right now. It should allow us to serve about 6,000 more kids in mostly Swim for Life. We're hoping to also loop in some team programming on the back end too. There's a function of time there too. Pool time has been an issue for us as well. And as we're expanding into DOE, we don't want to displace any DOE programs. Obviously, they do a lot of good things, swim teams, learn to swim programs on their own. So as we work with DOE to find time slots that are free, that's critical for us. We want to, fill in gaps that aren't being used and fill them with their own kids, because they should be.
I'm sorry, I am jumping in. The one of the special sauce in this is that you're talking about two city agencies. So when you talk to a Jefferson or a Fort Hamilton or so forth, and we have folks on the PSAL here, so you have some thoughts about this too. You're not paying $300 or $350 per hour for your pool time. Is that correct? That there's not a cost associated with the pool time. So this is all about I'm not trying to put you on the spot here, Paul, just so I understand.
My goal is to not pay for pool time.
Right.
I have paid for pool time, because that's the truth. The geography of the city is, if we don't have a pool in Staten Island, for example, which we don't, we will rent pools in Staten Island because it would be wrong for parks to have swim teams in every other borough, but not Staten Island. So we do. We've rented pool times many times at Curtis, Wagner, so like everybody else. But we do this to even things out. Otherwise, it would be completely unfair. Okay.
So our next speaker is.
Can I ask a question actually of you and Paul while you're on this subject? I'm on the Community Education Council for District 16. And what I'd like to know is if you can share, what are the criteria for schools if they want to participate in the Swim for Life? Is there a certain threshold they need to meet? Do you, for example, give priority to Title I public schools? Just a little bit of, I see the smile, but I'm just curious about what generally are the criteria for schools to participate in Swim for Life if they're not already participating?
If you know a second grade class attending a public school, let Paul and Natalie know that they're interested in participating. Then we have to make sure the principal of that school is on board. But we need, Paul and the Swim for Life program need to know interested second grade classes that want to participate in the program. So that'd be a good solution, is to funnel known second grade classes that want to participate. That'd be a huge help.
Yeah, working with DOE for expanding sites is going to help us out on the geographic world too. Because formerly we would work with the principals, we would offer them, the class, but it was just too far. So now working with DOE sites that could be closer to them, it could actually make sense. So hopefully that'll help us out.
Looks like you have one more question.
Good morning. My name is Benjamin Green.
Ben, you just want to go to the microphone. Thank you.
I think I got it loud enough. Oh, okay. My name is Benjamin Green. I am on the Educational Council for District 13. My question to you two gentlemen is, what is the time frame? It's nice to say that, oh yeah, just have the schools contact y'all, but what's the time frame for the principals and the schools to contact y'all? Because there's got to be a deadline and there's got to be a starting point. So I want to make sure that when we contact our principals, and where do we send, who do we got information, or where do they go to sign up?
Well, I should be on the emails here. You could either email me or Natalie or even Peter or Mike Randazzo. He'll connect us. There's 3 sessions a year. So even if your principal can't get involved this fall, there might be room in the winter time or next spring.
Okay, what's the time frame? You said this fall. I don't
Anytime.
know.
I mean, I don't know if I can get you in this fall, but if we talk now about the winter time, yeah, there's potential.
Well, we talking about making this continuous. So we talking about when you give me a time frame and you say this fall, this spring, what time, what month, you know, that kind of time frame, because that, according to our Title I schools, that information is not really communicated thoroughly to our schools, and especially when you start talking about Black and brown students that will definitely appreciate the fact that they can get a swim program. We need specifics, you know, instead of just giving generalizations and then we turn around and we tell them and then they turn it back around. You can't fit in this fall. Well, we're talking about making sure this program is around for a while. So that means next fall they'll be ahead of the game.
100%. And I can tell you the program will be around next fall. It's actually going to grow at Parks pools as more of our pools come online. So there's going to be a natural expansion within our own network, in addition to what we're going to be doing at DOE sites. So there are going to be more and more opportunities as the years go on, even through our own network, including DOE sites. That's going to be a natural progression. So, but we should talk. I mean, I'm sure we can, you know.
Well, I just want to know for everybody and for the people that are on Zoom is there a time frame? When do you sign up? So that we can.
We do it continuously.
Continuously.
Yeah.
So you're saying if I sign up today, I will be signing up for not the fall, but the spring.
We will give you a slot. How about that?
See, still, we beating around the bush with the time frame, because see, that's where a lot of schools don't get involved because they don't know what the time frame is. So what happens is they don't sign up. The principals don't buy in because they thinking that, okay, well, I'm not going to get a slot for the fall. I don't know when I'm going to get a slot. So then they don't buy in and they got other things to do. So that's what I'm trying to say. When is the time frame for the spring to sign up? Is it April, January, or in January or October? You know, what month or date that they sign up? And then when's the deadline for them to sign up for this one and the start of the new deadline? Because you said it's 3 sessions, right?
Yep. We can add it to our website we can add specific dates if that would help.
Okay, that would be
be
good. Thank you.
Just to clarify, the Swim for Life program offered 10 swim lessons during the middle of the school day. There were 3 seasons, fall, winter, and spring. So the second grade class would be transported by DOE buses to the site, same time every week for a 1-hour lesson. So in terms of availability, Paul can't really say, well, XYZ pool, he can't tell you specifically right now which pools are going to be operating and which hours are going to be available, but we're continually accepting new schools. We want more schools to say, yes, we want to participate.
I just think, I think Mr. Green is just asking for like better communication, right? That's necessarily, I'm sorry, I didn't cut you off.
No,
Just
go
gonna
ahead.
just make this
Go
point.
ahead.
And he can speak for himself.
Okay.
But I just think he's just looking for, in order to make impact, communication have to be clear, right? And so, individuals, in this case, the CEC, which is over a school district, right, want to be able to make sure that the communication is not just getting to principals, but also to the parents and the stakeholders, so they are aware. So I think, I mean, that's just a fair question, and I think we can clear that up, right?
Good communication will be critical.
And we can add more dates, obviously. Yeah, we can add.
But the communication, like Mr. Williams said, the communication needs to go out more broad, more bandwidth of the communication, because just going to the principals, but these go out to everybody.
Sure.
CECs. We got President's Council that are in charge of all the PTAs in their district, and we have PTAs, the school leadership teams in each one of our schools. We have a mechanism to spread communication around. So we think that, you know, if we can get that communication and with dates and more specifics on how to sign up, I think you'll get the more participation in the program.
Thank you. Thank you. I'd like our second panelist to be Mary O'Donoghue from the YMCA. Tell us what's up with the Y.
What's up with the Y? So, 101 YMCA, we have 24 branches in New York City, in all 5 boroughs. 21 of those have pools. And we are actively working to include everybody in swimming. That's been one of the top things for the Y. That's what we do. And as Paul and Peter mentioned, we have partnered with Swim for Life in the past. We offer second grade swim to the second graders in New York City. We work with the schools and on the communication, we reach out directly to schools. The aquatics directors at each branch and the executive directors will reach out to the schools in their neighborhoods. And we work with the school to figure out what the best of them was to come. We are doing that during the school day. The city provides busing, which is great. And that's how we start getting the water safety message out. The goal is not only to get them in the water, but also to teach them how to be safe around the water. Our program, the second grade swim program, has been around since 2008. We did partner with the Parks Foundation, and then, as lack of funding came, we split off and we continue to do that. Obviously, during COVID, it has a little hit downside. And now that the pools are back up and the DOE are allowing schools to come to and get out of the school day and come to our branches, we are now looking to get more of the schools that we did serve back into the program this year. As for, it is working with the schools. So if, depending on pool space, depending on what the school does, what is available for them to go, that's how we set up the program. And like Parks, it is a continuous program throughout the year. We run it in 8-week sessions, and hopefully we can maybe switch in another session there if it works. But the goal is to get children young and get their parents as well, and get that water safety information out. So that's one of the things the YMCA is doing. Our other great initiative right now is that we have generous funding to offer free lifeguard training. And our lifeguard training program, we started this in 2020. The YMCA of USA has a nationally recognized lifeguard training curriculum. That's what we're using. It's equivalent to Red Cross and any other national program. In 2020, we had the funding and we started to develop this course. We are now able to offer it in all 5 boroughs. We're offering one class session. They're running over 8 weeks. So we're making sure that we get all the pieces of the curriculum through so that these participants are going to be certified as lifeguards. They can work anywhere in the city, but if they choose to apply to the YMCA, we have a higher bonus. And I'm going to pass it over to my colleague Ron here because he has what we've accomplished so far in the program and how we want to continue to work.
Yes, I'm Ron Staten. I've worked for the Y for 20 years now, and I'm glad to be part of the community lifeguard program that we offer. It's been around, as Mary said, started teaching this program in 2020. 2021, we started offering it for free in the fall, and I stepped in taking over in 2022. We offer it all year round. We do 5 8-week sessions. We have 4 1-week condensed sessions. And then during the summer, we do a month-long session. Summer is busy for aquatics, as we all know, and we put it into one month, just the month of July, so that we can get people in and hopefully working before the end of the summer. In 2022, we had 190 participants that took the course and 114 that got certified. Today, this year, we've had 164 participants and we've certified 113. So we've improved on last year's numbers. We're getting the word out to people more readily. People are coming in for pre-testing to know that they are capable of doing this course, and we're getting people in there and certified at a larger rate. And we've been able to, add a lifeguard development course. So if someone comes in, they can swim, but not quite to the standard that would make them successfully pass the course. We have a course that will build on their swimming and some basic information with water safety and readiness that will give them a great foundation to be able to successfully participate in the lifeguard course and have a much higher chance of passing it that way.
Is this at every YMCA?
So, so it is offered, so every of the 5-week session, the 5 8-week sessions, we offer them one in each borough, and we move them around because what is convenient to people that live by across island-wide might not be convenient to people that live out in Rockaway or Jamaica. So we try to move it around in each borough so that it is convenient for people at that time. We have gotten the schedule out. We have through the end of this year on our website now. So you can look at what's coming up on your schedule. If you know that you have swim season or basketball, you know, like this session isn't going to work, but we know what the dates are for future sessions. So 1 week session, we usually hold those in 2 to 3 sites, and that is just condensed. They come 5 straight days. There are long days where it is 5 straight days they come in and they can knock everything out. And then the summer session, we will have 2 to 3 sites, depending on the demands. And that would be 2 to 3 times a week for 4 weeks.
Is the certification that you provide acceptable by the New York City Department of Health?
Yes, it is.
When did that happen?
It's
That's
been for
always
years,
been?
always been.
Always
Yep.
been that way?
Yes.
So in the 25 years I've been with the Y Department of Health, I accepted it. And it's also accepted throughout the US.
Okay, and New York City Department of Parks doesn't really accept that for pools. You have to go through their service.
That's one of the bottlenecks.
Just so that everyone in the room understands.
It's definitely helpful to have gone through that. It'll definitely make you more.
Yeah, yeah.
comfortable again. But right now they require you to go through their academy.
So I think one of the things, Diana Price from Red Cross, so she represents Red Cross for our region. But Red Cross and the YMCA have always cross-honored each other's programs. So if you have a Red Cross certification and you need to cross to a Y, it's a shorter course. You come in and basically prove you can do your skills, right? And the same for the Y with Red Cross. We cross-honor the certifications. And that's one thing that we're hoping to be able to do eventually with Parks.
And your certification is the same in terms of length of,
Right, yeah.
it's 2 years.
Oh, so all the nationally accepted and Department of Health accepted, New York City Department of Health accepted certs are valid for 2 years. New York City Department of Health does require everyone to have their CPR renewed annually.
Just so everyone knows.
But yeah, anything that's accepted is the same validity.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Ron.
I'm just gonna mention one more thing. You know, the YMCA is always willing to work with everyone in our communities. So anyone who wants to swim, we have swim lessons available. And YMCA-NYC.org, log on and we'll help you out.
Okay. And that beats the question. What if I?
As a small learn to swim operation needs to rent pool time,
is that, I know it's not possible now, is that something that, given the current circumstances, we could expect to change that? Do you know what I'm asking?
I know what you're asking.
Mhm.
And our pools are, we pack them to the gills. That's the only way to describe it. Between, swim lessons, our own swim teams, programs like second grade swim, like the lifeguard training.
Mhm.
We pretty much use every square inch of our pools. That's not to say that we're not willing to look into working with other organizations, but we try and pack as much as we can into our pools.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
Our next speaker is going to, thank you, Mary, thank you, Ron. Our next speaker is going to be Jack Siegenthaler on behalf of Council Member Savina Brooks Powers.
Thanks so much. Thank you. She represents District 31, which includes Eastern end of the Rock Lake and parts of Southeast Cornwall and parts of the country. As a council member representing East Cornwall, this issue that was on, it seems like every month about this. And she sees this as an issue of equity. She shared infrastructure and pool infrastructure for business. And she's very passionate about. She knows often there is no park across the pool in the rockways, are surrounded by water. So she's got a couple pieces of legislation that she's worked on and mostly for her council package to improve things. So one piece of legislation is in 3 things. It would require Parks Department to survey sites citywide for construction of new pools. Second, it would require coordination on planning to open up pools under DOE jurisdiction, public that we sustain coordination currently between the health department and DOE and far up the high school business, but in the pool under public jurisdiction per district. So about that to open to public. And then 3 codifying requirements for the park department to provide a free. So that bill is being worked on in the administration. Part of the package of bills for kind of shares park committee package of bills is our reporting on staffing levels for lifeguard in the parks department. And then Councilmember required another bill. It would require annual ground tests. We've had applicants showing us their data on ground tests, and then we call it annualized data available on various apps, etc. So they're going to build Councilmember forward to try to get Park Health to publish annualized data on where these grounds are being placed, why, what those facilities, so yeah, this is an issue that Councilmember talked about.
City Council Member, the floor is yours for a couple of minutes.
How many things more technical?
Yes.
It's very late. But good to see you. Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm Councilmember Shaker Krishna. I'm all the way from Queens, probably the reason other than before, but it's a while to get here. I really appreciate you all inviting me and all the work that you're doing. I couldn't agree more as I heard from Jasper coming into. I'm so glad that you all are meeting today. The work you do every single day to address this issue. This could not be a more urgent issue.
And I say it both as a council member representing a district that has some of the least amount of open space, schools, parks, whatever it may be, all of your city. We do not have public pools. Something the community, as you all know, is one of probably the most diverse communities in the world. But it also means so many of our children don't know how to swim either. And as the chair of the Parks Community Council, it is my mission in a broader sense, fight to make sure that we think about racial justice, social justice, equity, but also all of these perspectives, parks, schools, beaches, public space, and making sure that every New York City person, especially our children, know how to swim, how to train and educate water safety. And we haven't had good staffing for our pools and beaches, so the whole staffing policy falls squarely within that work that jurisdiction mandate of our city council. It could not be a more urgent issue. I think you all have seen when we had our monthly hearing just a few months ago, periodically checking out the update of where things as far as goes. We are far behind where we need to be. City needs about 1,400 lifeguards, staff all schools, as we know. And at this point, we reached probably close to about 900 where we were last year. We're very far behind. You all know, and I'm going to tell you all, one, what that's meant in terms of water safety, the other concerns, what kind of the impact of the program in the city, and what it means in the ways in which it exacerbates the disparity when it comes to access to communities, as well as short convenience. You all here in your advocacy work every day are making sure that that gap is filled, but we cannot do it. I maintain that our city government has a number of months on the responsibility to make sure that everyone knows how to access schools, beaches, and parks. We know that this case not just from a health safety standpoint, but from a climate standpoint. So effectively assist. We are a city surrounded by water, and we're seeing the depth and surrounding this year too with the flooding. Just how urgent it is to be true swimming. So there are a few things that we're working on. We have legislation coming up that we're very proud of. We have those powers. I'm very proud to be pushing forward early on in September that would address this issue in number of ways. My bill in particular, I've been very focused on making sure that we are actually using it for lifeguard hiring for sure.
Okay. Bring it closer. Oh, this is a little better. But my bill in particular is requiring okay, got it. So my bill of the three in particular is requiring that the Parks Department every year provide an update on its lifeguard hiring, where it stands, how close it is to fully staffing pools and beaches, what are the water emergencies that have happened across our city every year, what are the steps that Parks is taking to maintain our public pools, and if there are public pools that are closed, what is the timeline to get them reopened? I think this is information. If we are going to solve this crisis, and that's what it is, it's a city crisis, it is a national crisis. If we are going to solve it, the work for next year, as you all know, begins now. It began last year, frankly, and every year I say it at our Parks hearings, it begins well in advance of before we actually get to pools and beach season. So that bill in particular will require the accountability that we need from our city government and our Parks Department to make sure that we can actually address this crisis. And the bills that Councilman Brooks Powers and Councilman Menon put forward will augment or supplement the work that you all are doing too, which is to find ways to expand or open up new public pools, especially in communities like mine and others that don't have access to public pools. And on top of that too, to look at creative ways to get new pools open, Department of Education, school pools and otherwise too. But we've also, as a council, been able to, secure 5.3 million in funding for swim programs this year as well. So this is a priority of Speaker Adams. It's a priority of mine as the Parks Chair, a priority of our city councils. And we will continue to work with you all to advocate to ensure that it remains a priority of City Hall in the city of New York, and to make sure that we address the really serious crisis we face in this city when it comes to making sure that our children know how to swim and know how to have safe, employ safe practices in the water too. It is a holistic, comprehensive effort. We have a long, long way to go, but I do feel confident that each and every one of you here, who I've worked with in different ways, in different capacities, we have both the knowledge, the passion, and commitment in this room to make sure that we address this crisis once and for all. It's only going to get worse. And in the hearings that we have coming up this fall, we're going to be talking about these issues from a climate standpoint and otherwise, but this will be a part of it too. And as I said, we're not going to be able to be a sustainable city unless we take swimming and water safety as seriously and as urgently as we need to.
Shakar, thank you very much for your support for the allocation of the 5.3 million that will lead to second graders learning how to swim. Hopefully they'll become swim team members and lifeguards. So the resurgence of Swim for Life and your support for the allocation. Everybody in this room is heartfelt to prevent the drownings that needlessly go on. So thank you. We've got two more speakers. I know.
Thank you, Ron.
We've got two more speakers before the noon hour. The next speaker is Tracy Cauldron from Musa Swim.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Tracy Cauldron. And full disclosure, I want to say I'm not an aquatics person. I am a youth development professional. I'm passionate about kids and communities. And I started Musa Swim back in 2015 when I first became aware of the pool that was in Jefferson High School that was not being used at all. If you're not familiar with Jefferson High School, it's in East New York, Brooklyn. At that time, I was supervising summer camps for a nonprofit that operated in East New York. And I thought it was a tragedy that my kids could not utilize that pool that had been restored. And I wish I had pictures to show you everyone, but it's a beautiful facility. And it just there wasn't the funding and the political will to open that pool to the community. And so I worked to form Musa into a nonprofit specifically to target communities of color, specifically boys of color, because they drown at the highest rates, take a whole lot of risk. To swim and certify them as lifeguards. Spoke to some of the lifeguards that I knew at the time, and what was consistent about their journey to becoming a lifeguard was that process taught them all the life skills that a youth development professional wants to instill in kids: responsibility, self-discipline, building self-esteem. All those things is a part of that process. And I was like, yeah, I want to do this. And so I literally begged friends and families and got money to start a program at Jefferson. I also want to shout out Councilmember Inez Barron. Back then, she gave us some seed money to start the program. And we've been at this since 2016, recruiting kids from Jefferson who, by the way, when we recruit them, the first question is, where are we going to swim, miss? These kids were in the building and not aware that there was this pool in their basement, which again, I think is a tragedy, and it speaks to the state of the city and where we are. Also in that community is East New York Family Academy that has had a pool at that time, but now has rebuilt their school, and it's a brand new facility. It has a pool, and last time I checked, it wasn't being fully utilized either. And so we have two brand spanking new pools within the, a 2 or 3 block radius in East New York that are underutilized. Thank goodness Jefferson is getting more use now. But again, back when I started the program, it was not being utilized. And we have had shoestring budgets. I've never had more than $5,000 and operated no more than 6 weeks at a time. And I'm telling you, we have trained kids to become lifeguards in that short period of time. The carrot is that we guarantee them a job. And so those kids work really, really hard within a 6-week period. And we've been able to teach all of the kids that participate in the program to swim. And we usually get about 5 or 10 lifeguards every session. But it is also about exposure, right? If they're not aware of this opportunity, our kids do not know about lifeguarding. They don't know that they can become a lifeguard at 16 and how much it pays. And it is the carrot that keeps them going. But I've seen kids transform through this process. And that's, on top of all the other reasons why it's very important that the city gets on top of this, preventing drownings and, giving access to communities of color. But I also want to lift up the other benefits for learning to swim and becoming a lifeguard, which are the same things that the DOE wants to do for every child, building that self-esteem, making them more responsible, keeping them on the right track. This is a way to do that. And so I'm really grateful that there's so many people here that are interested in doing this, because at times I felt like I was on an island by myself. I'm really, really excited that there is that political will to keep this going and to expose kids. And I just want to say, it's great that we're teaching young kids to swim, but don't forget about the older kids. There's not a lot of opportunities for them. And it's a missed opportunity to get them on this path to become lifeguards. These kids want to do this. They're capable of it, but this has not been available to them. And we really should be utilizing, I think there's 50 pools in New York City, and only a handful of them are operational. Some are being used for storage. So we need to, put some money to get these pools open, make them more accessible to the community. So it's just like a natural thing in East New York to swim. And that should be the goal. So thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. Where's Michael? I don't know where he is, but Michael's been,
The key solution takeaway from this is, how do we clone you so that you do this everywhere?
Listen, it is, I'm not doing anything special. I just, saw an opportunity and just thought it was, something that had to be done, and it just happened because I think it's the right thing to do. And when you're doing the right thing, doors open up for you. I have to say it hasn't been easy. The Department of Education doesn't make it easy to access their pools. Every year I get smacked with a $6,000 permit to use the pool. Most of that charges for security guards, which are already in the building because the school is open after 3 for other after school activities. I'm recruiting kids from the school. I'm not bringing kids from outside. So why are you charging me $6,000 to use your pool that's not even being used? I don't pay it. I get out of it every year, but I mean, just the thought that, that when you call and say, can I use the pool and support your kids? That's the first thing they're going to tell you. You're going to have to get a permit and it's going to cost you $6,000. So, I just think, again, if there is the will, there is the way. And I'm really appreciative for everybody here today and willing to work with you all and partner, and anything I can share, I'm here to do that. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, Tracy, so great to meet you, and it's inspiring, actually, the stuff that you're doing. And I saw that pool in October, and it was astounding. And this is for the elected officials, because I think, was it Charles Barron who paid to have the?
Yes, so Charles Barron raised the money to restore it. And then him and his wife kind of switched. And around when I was doing first started Musa, she was the council member, and so she gave me the seed money to open the first program. Yeah.
Well, and going there, because I have the same swim pool. It's all about getting into the pool. But this is I talked to an athletic director for one of the 4 schools, right? There's 4 schools, as you know all this. And I was like, how does this all work? And in fact, Sheridan and I were just trying, and we're going around and around. And there's got to be a better way, right? And I am a DOE employee. I can get in buildings, but if I have folks who are lifeguards or certified WSI or not to teach kids, and they're not DOE people, do I think that can they get into the building? So again, it's fantastic. You're in a lot of ways a model that I see, like, get those high school kids, teach them to swim, get them to be lifeguards, get them inspired to work. So anyway, if you just want to a little bit, because you guys are on the front line.
No, just to add on, it really applies to me. And you mentioned it. Thank you. You mentioned it too. How difficult it is to obtain access to DOE pools as well. So that's something that I know, more to come, but we're very aware of it in the council, and we're trying to find ways to make that process easier and also expand other opportunities for pools too. But I agree with you. One of the most important things, if we're actually going to solve this issue, we have to make it simpler for people to have access in the first place.
Our final speaker is going to be Crystal Freed from Tankproof.
Apologies, it's actually Frank. But as mentioned, I'm Director of Operations of Tankproof. I thought it'd be easier to do a little presentation. This presentation is actually a snippet of a deck that we utilize for our partnerships, which is kind of like a solution that we find is a really helpful tool for our organization. Through this presentation, you'll also see a lot of things you guys know. Of course, you guys are very aware of the drowning issue, the inequities, but this is how we get the people to acknowledge this, because the people in this room, a lot of people outside, especially corporations, do not know that this is an issue. Can't tell you how many times we go to buildings or places or people, and we have to tell them that drowning is the leading cause of death for children, and they're just like flabbergasted. And for us, that's such an important way of kind of presenting this as a tool for leveraging their way to access community support. Through this, we also kind of, have to present ourselves as a new modern version of a nonprofit organization. So we have been featured through a lot of publications. We were actually on the cover of USA Today last year to describe our mission. And I think a lot of what's important here is our partnerships that you see here. We've also worked with Volkswagen. And a lot of that has just been beneficial to us to be able to provide our swimming lessons throughout the US. We are currently located in 9 cities. You'll see later in the deck. But a lot of this has just been started through our founders, who are 2 twin brothers. Thurman himself actually experienced an episode of drowning when he was younger. That didn't initially start the mission of where they're at now, but when they were older, they were looking for a way to support their community, and they were musicians, and they were trying to think of an innovative way to support their communities. So they started selling band merch, and they started selling those band merch items as kind of tank tops that you would utilize the profits to give kids swimming lessons. And they kind of got the name Tankproof. It was kind of like a play on words. So through that mission, they just kept selling the t-shirts, getting kids lessons. First, it was 150 kids one year, 250, just kept doubling. And then after the 5th year, they were able to actually get a group of instructors, local kids. And this area, they were actually living in Baton Rouge. So we were able to get a lot of college students involved, and that empowered a lot of people to help support us through our mission. So we got access to water pretty quickly. And it was just, again, a really supportive way of seeing a culture rising from this. And so the founders have a really wonderful way of creating a lot of creative content through that. So that kind of leads me into how we really support our mission. Again, a lot of this is really just to kind of give you guys an overview of what we share with our partnerships. Again, our mission is to serve the youth in our communities that we participate in. But this is strictly how we have told the organizations or companies and corporations with the money that's going to help us supply the lessons. So we go into these cities, we tell them we're going to be a part of your community. We're going to be there for 5 days and we're giving the kids zero cost swimming lessons. And through that, we work with like anybody. We work with healthcare providers. We work with, again, this year we've been able to work with NYC Swim. We've been able to work with Sperry, and we use their donation as a contribution to these lessons. But also we think about the people within their organizations as people that could potentially be volunteers. Because again, the length of this deck can also spread to their teams to initially inspire somebody who was a competitive swimmer in their college team. And some of them don't think about being lifeguards. I have a really grateful point that you brought up. A lot of this is just exposure. Like a lot of what we do is just expose communities and people to this issue via, I don't know, social media posting, through a brand partnership like with Volkswagen. We create beautiful content because that is just the day and age we're in, where that is such an important medium of getting information out there. So a lot of this is just really kind of evolving these corporations and their marketing dollars that they use towards content creators. We take that money and we use it to help the community at large. And a lot of that has just been so beneficial because, again, as mentioned, we're now in 9 cities. And I think that's such an impact because we've been able to work with many organizations within those cities. So like Seattle, we work with a great group called No More Under. They're another drown prevention organization. They don't have the scalability to do bigger lessons. So we collaboratively do a lesson together. And we're able, this year we did 150 kids recently in 1 week. And that was like 3 different housing units. And we just were able to do that. Also, we had a local college student who, her name is Josie. She was a rock star and rallied her entire swim team and got raised money for the kids to get swimsuits. But that was all because she had saw us on Instagram. And it was just, again, this ability to inspire new generations of children and people to feel as passionate about this as us, because a lot of this is a cultural thing. Like our founders, I wish they were here. They have such a charisma and passion for this. It really just rubs on people and it makes people so inspired and want to find ways to help us. Another way that we kind of activate that doesn't really seem obvious is we support communities. So in Austin specifically, we have a weekly feed. So we support a community by giving them free meals. At this point, we've at least been able to garner, I think it's 300 pounds of food over the past 12 months now. We've been there every single Saturday to divide and conquer with whatever they've been able to give us from Trader Joe's. And again, that doesn't necessarily seem like an obvious mission for a wider organization, but to us, that was so important during the pandemic because our kids were not able to go to the schools for free lunches. So our founders were really empowered to go help the communities by giving them food. And of course, we think about the children that come to our lessons, they're hungry. A lot of times they may need a snack. And it's just to us, that just is an extension of intersecting ourselves and other avenues of connecting with brands. We connected with a really great popsicle brand. Now they're a donor of ours who now contributes to the lesson. So it's a lengthy layered version of how we've been able to really capture people in different sectors in different parts of the world and really make an impact for people. And this is kind of, again, just how we share a little bit of what their partnership parks are and the power of their investment and what they do with us. Because again, not only do we see that their partnership means so much to us here, we really want to grow and garner a really proper relationship with them and hopefully extend to more corporations supporting us versus, again, going the route of hitting grants and policies. I mean, that is a big initiative, but we really see a lot of movement with this, not only just through the communities that we work with, but a lot of times people find us and then they'll ultimately tell a friend who tells a friend and tells a friend. And that to us, Grapevine, has just been such a win. But that's just a very minute solution to what's been a really helpful tool for us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I was just trying to make.
Hey, you are all going back to your seats now because we're about to start for the third panel. And of course, the best is at the last position here. And our group is really going to address aspirational issues, but issues that are also happening today. So not just pie in the sky, but things that are happening now and things that we hope that will happen to allow us to become a much more equitable and accessible aquatics-based city. So to that end, I'm Sean Slevin with Swim Strong, and I'd like to present Kara to do the presentation on Plus Pool, which is such a cool idea.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. My name is Kara Meyer. I am the director of this thing we call Plus Pool. I think what I've been hearing today that's sticking out the most in my mind, our thesis is that we need more pools. New York City is completely underserved when it comes to pools compared to other cities around the world, around the country. I think there's one public pool to every 150,000 New Yorkers or something like that. In comparable cities or other cities, it's the recommended amount is more like 1 to every 20,000. So we are very underserved in pools. And our whole mission is that we're trying to provide free and safe access to the rivers around New York City for swimming that have been cut off to citizens for over 100 years. And so that's what I'm here to talk about a little bit, very briefly, and what we're trying to do in that space, as well as our swim education initiatives. But Plus Pool is a water filtering floating swimming pool that filters river water through the walls of the pool, designates a safe area of swimming that is protects swimmers from the currents, and that is highly monitored to ensure swimmer safety. It kind of came we have 520 miles of waterfront here to work with, right? And so I think in a city that has very limited capacity in terms of physical space to build pools, we have this resource all around us that we can access through advanced engineering and process controls and regular monitoring that we've been engineering and sharing with the city. So we used to swim in the river all the time. We used to have floating bathhouses all across the city. This is a quote from former Governor Smith. He said the East River was a place for swimming when he was a kid, and all the tenement kids would swim in the river. There are 15 floating bathhouses around the city, and 40% of our population use them. This is over 100 years ago, and we haven't been able to return to the rivers for swimming since industrial pollution has been cutting us off, but the water quality has greatly improved. So this was our contemporary version of the floating pools, Plus Pool, and we proposed it to the city in 2019. After years of advocating for this kind of access, the city released an RFP for this kind of idea for a floating East River swim facility, and we've been working with them ever since to diligence an area. It's very complicated because things are complicated to build in New York City, but the primary issue that we have is that there's no existing regulatory structure for what Plus Pool is proposing. We are not by definition a swimming pool or a beach or anything in between that we have defined in the city's regulatory codes. So we have this kind of pilot version that we're trying to permit through the existing city codes that we're calling it Plus Beach. And the big news that just came out recently is that the mayor's office has directed the health department to create a new category for swim facilities. So as I mentioned, we currently permit, yay, thank you. We currently permit swimming facilities in New York in 2 ways. We have bathing beaches and we have swimming pools. And so they are trying to create a new category for what we're calling, until we find a better name, non-traditional beaches. So we're trying to push, as I mentioned, this pilot facility through the existing bathing beach code because there's a lot of legal reasons why we believe this can happen, and it can be a temporary project to support longer term policy that will create these non-traditional beaches. So we have these two kind of streams of work that we're doing as an organization, trying to build, one facility that we can leverage and use and show what's possible, while also changing policy for the long term. But the third piece of work that we do is really environmental and swim education. So as I mentioned, our nonprofit mission is to provide free and safe access to the rivers for swimming. People won't have free and safe access if they don't know how to swim, right? So we see swim education as a really necessary precondition to our vision where everyone has safe access. So we have a Bluefish program. Nora Kernan is here. She's our program director. We just taught 150 kids to swim this past month. We also do a lot of environmental education on water quality. So we have a classroom curriculum. We host river sweeps and cleanups along the waterfront as a nonprofit. And we use design, we really kind of started as a design organization with this design idea. We use art and design to disseminate water quality data. This was a floating light sculpture we built in the river that changed colors based on the quality of the water in the river. Show people it's actually really not as bad as people think, and when it is, to show what's happening and why. We do work in schools across the 5 boroughs, and we're trying to share our monitoring practices and disseminate that so it's really digestible for the public, because water quality data is very complex and people don't understand it. And so we're trying to kind of make that a little bit more accessible. So all of this in preparation for free and safe access to the rivers. Yeah, so I just put a little more about our Learn to Swim programs because the audience I'm speaking to. So these are our programs. We do youth, adults, and then we have a family swim as well as part of our programming. Happy to answer additional questions about that, and really grateful for the community here about this issue and how we can gain access to more pools for our programs and make sure every kid in New York City knows how to swim. So thank you.
And I want to say just how important this concept is, because when you think about it, New York is opening and developing our waterfronts as never before in our lifetimes. So that's going to give access to 8.5 million people to open waters that they've never had before. Most of those people not only do not understand the nature, danger, and behavior of that particular body of water that they're thinking about stepping into, but they do not have the skills. And as Nora rightly pointed out, we're so densely populated now that trying to build more swimming pools, although we want them badly, there's just not going to be enough opportunity to service a city of 8.5, 9 million people and growing to provide these skills. So we are going to have to utilize our open waterfronts as well. So thank you so much for that work.
Yeah, and I can add to that I'm pretty sure that we're the only people that have applied for a bathing beach permit in the past, I don't know, 50 years. So obviously that stimulated a lot of this new policy change, but it's not like we're providing access in places that are currently regulated and allowed to do that either. So we have to think creatively to be able to access. There's, again, 520 miles of waterfront here. Not all of it is conducive and safe for this kind of access, of course. And so assessing that, we're really supportive of the bill to assess public lands for additional pools for these reasons. And we're trying to push in the opportunity that exists on the waterfront, because I think people just don't think about it. And it really is an opportunity. Yeah. So right now because of this pilot facility and a lot of the regulation, we're focusing on permitting within city purview. There's a lot of reasons for that. I'm happy to talk to you offline. But actually I have a call later today with Hochul's office. So I don't know. We'll see what happens there.
Any other quick questions? Okay, great. Thank you so much. And now we're moving on to Kate Krause, who's going to speak about her organization, Rising Tide Effect, and also some legislation at the state level. Thanks, Kate.
Thanks, Sean. Good morning. My name is Caitlin Krause. I'm the founder and executive director of the Rising Tide Effect. I am also a commissioner on the Water Safety Commission, appointed or signed into reality about 1.5 years ago by Governor Hochul. And I also am part of a water safety coalition with my colleague Sean, where we are helping to draft the proper legislation that would really chip away at the inequity that there is in access to this education. Just starting real quick with that bill before I go into my organization, it's Assembly Bill 4846. I've left a poster there on the table and I've left one back there, but there's a barcode that you can scan and sign the petition. It's crucial that we show the numbers. As you all are aware, this is like the first time in history that we have legislation in the city and on the state level. People on both sides of the aisle agree on this. And now it's a matter of pushing it through. How do we push it through? We sign on to the petition and we get our electeds to co-sign the bill. The bill is originated by Stacey Pfeffer Amato, and she is also responsible for the bill that formed the commission. Now, I'll just go quickly to the commission and give you guys a quick update here. So we are comprised of, I think it's 8 of us from upstate and downstate. And we have 5 goals, and I'm going to share the goals with you. At the end of our commission, we will be making recommendations. It won't be law, it won't be legislation, it'll be recommendations. So it'll be on the people in this room to really get behind the recommendations and implement them. The first goal is to determine an appropriate age and or stage of childhood development when children can properly begin water safety and swimming instructions and develop statewide standards for such instruction. Goal 2, investigate and evaluate the feasibility and effectiveness of programs which incentivize parents and guardians to enroll children in water safety and swimming instruction. The third goal, develop a comprehensive plan for public-private partnerships between the state and community centers, nonprofit organizations, recreational facilities, swimming instructors, and other relevant stakeholders, and expanding existing state resources such as parks and pools to provide access to free swimming instruction and determine the feasibility of such programs. Number 4, develop an implementation plan to ensure its swimming safety programs are available in underserved communities. And 5, develop a comprehensive plan for public awareness campaign to ensure parents and guardians receive information on the importance of children receiving basic water safety and swimming instruction. I'm excited to be in part 3 because I have some good news to share. My organization is just about 3 years old. We aim to work with, in this case, New York City's most underserved and at-risk youth. We started by working with the young men who are in the St. John's Residence for Boys. Now we also serve children experiencing homelessness and children living in a domestic violence shelter. Our new program this summer, it was a pilot program. We have done a pilot abroad. We do have a successful model, but for now we're shoring up New York City. We do water safety education classes and assemblies. This is one where we brought one of the mermaids from the Netflix documentary Mer People to help me deliver the 5 water safety facts, because I found that when I was in this situation, nobody retained anything. But when I brought the mermaid in, everyone remembered the 5 facts. So again, the pilot that we did this summer. So it's called the Swim Safety Corps. It's exclusively for ages 16 to 24 NYCHA residents. We welcomed participants from Far Rockaway, all the way up through Gowanus and Red Hook. We spent the first 2 weeks learning how to swim. Then once we were confident in that, we went and took them surfing, and then we went kayaking. We took a very detailed tour of the ferry, and we got to look at some of the sustainable architecture as a response to Hurricane Sandy. So really trying to figure out all the ways that water intersects with our lives, especially as New Yorkers. The last piece of the Swim Safety Corps was a mind, body, and soul workshop throughout. Water is healing, and water is soothing, and it can really be a gateway to getting to know yourself better. So you'll just see here, we did a mindfulness exercise every day, which really helped. We did do water safety classes, and this is a picture of us swimming in Far Rockaway on Beach 17th Street, where we have a location at Ocean Park Apartments. The ferry. This is us learning about a riptide, getting a visual understanding. Yeah, and that's it. So Swim Safety Corps, our pilot ended yesterday. We graduated 11 students. We started with 17. And it was very exciting because no one knew how to swim when they started. And by the end, everyone is able to swim, take a breath, and continue swimming, which is the life-saving ability they need if ever in the water. So thank you all for your time and for letting me speak.
Super, Kate. We really appreciate that. Any questions for Kate? We do have questions.
Is more of the legacy.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So we're trying to get the message out that water safety is not just swimming lessons, it's also dry land education. And so what we're trying to do through the education route, through the education committee, is create an opt-in for DOE schools, which serves about 900,000 children, where they can have access to a water safety curriculum. And if they have a pool, of course, that would be another form, but for sure is the dry land, because with drownings being 95% preventable, a lot of ground can be covered at the kitchen table at home. And so our hope is that this will help create the wholesale change we need, not just in the classrooms, but in our culture. Mm-hmm. No, that'd be interesting to look into, Sean. Yeah.
Sure. Great.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Question, Peter.
The state of New York does a great job at Riverbank State Park. That pool is terrific, but there are other states around the country that are financing free swimming lessons. A good example is Massachusetts. The state finances free swimming lessons for organizations like Musa, like Inclusive Community Wellness. Why doesn't New York State provide funding to energize more free swim lessons?
That's a great question. And it's a major missing, I wouldn't even say a stone, it's a pillar in all of this. I particularly happen to be working on goal 3 and 5. Goal 3 is where we're talking about public-private partnerships and creating programming, and funding is something that we're talking about.
I think our gaming, the expanding of gaming in New York State is an opportunity to explore getting some more funding to aquatics programs.
All of this won't be possible without funding. Everybody in here knows it. So that's got to come hand in glove with whatever recommendations that we make, is to also pencil in a big old bucket of funding to make it happen. Myself personally, no, but that's a good question. I'm gonna ask that.
Everyone should know here that the CDC is starting to actually care about this issue a little bit more, and Bloomberg Philanthropies, I think, is investing a lot of money into the CDC to support research in this space and supporting programs like this. So it's just starting to come out. I'm sure we'll hear about it more.
We're fortunate to have Bloomberg Philanthropies as a partner, and we made a point to make sure that all the data we collected can be used after this to make evidence-based, decisions.
Mm-hmm.
So for sure.
Say like from we tried free swim lessons have like definitely been extremely beneficial, but it does, if you don't recognize the lack of acceptance, like by reading, you will not be able to return model of registration. Like I think we've done that model many times in Boston, but we did a full, it like unless you're like legitimately taking people to do that lesson, people are not going to fill up. You have bias, people have hurt, like you also have to like recognize people's disability with that. And so that's why like sometimes we can work with like a girls community or programs that are already instilled, and so that's like a pillar that I think has to come into play. Free, don't rely on like
All of our programming is free. In fact, we made a point to try to remove every single barrier that we could. Whether that meant finding a guardian that helps bring the group of kids to the pool for that exact reason. The other piece, and I think you touched on it before, is the people that are at least in my program are very food insecure. So one of my partners is the Rockaway Hotel. They open the restaurant in the morning, and after every lesson, we have a really nice breakfast in the restaurant. That has kept people, I think, coming, even on the days where it's cold and rainy, because the meal is a nice touch, and I think that's really important to come with. So yeah.
Right, like we were able to take all of our.
That's cool.
You know, it's like you give them sense. Like I always try really hard at the brand, even small businesses here through Hotel Indiana, it's free house, they do their own donation program. And it's like that again is another form of messaging because they incentivize their buyers, their consumers. So it's like it's a like connected dots that has helped us spread it without having to do a bunch of marketing. You know, but again, it's a win. I'm like, oh, I can get my kids like backpacks. Like I can give them like things. It's just a nice little treat for them.
And so sorry to jump in. Thank you all so much, but we have two more speakers and I'm afraid we're going to be thrown out of the room before we get to finish. So I'd like to give the floor to Carl Quigley now. Oh, that's okay.
No, it's okay.
Oh, no slide?
Yeah.
Oh, that's me.
It's not really identified with any specific thing I'm saying. I'm here to talk about swim culture in New York, as I see it. And, but before I get into that, I just want to say how overwhelming, amazing this is. I kind of asked Michael to maybe postpone this a little bit so we kind of had our act together. But you guys have your act together. It's just a matter of getting us together. That's the swim coach and me talking about, like a swim meet. The other important thing to recognize is opportunities at every level, at the second grader level, the pre-K level, at the level of a senior citizen who's just rehabbing from a hip surgery. If they're afraid of the water, they can't really, it's another obstacle in the way. So there's a whole other thing, and the disabled people who are handicapped intellectually and physically, access to them is critical. That's part of my background. I want to thank Mike, Roberta, Harry, Peter, Jean, and Perry. A couple of weeks ago, they met at my house and we kind of pulled this together. As I said, which button will I press? Oh, this is forward. Okay, that's big. You want to just press it so people can see it? Give it to Roberta, because I get to get distracted. But I really didn't know. It had always been a dream of mine to pull together a group like this from Parks, from YMCA, Red Cross, from Sean, that I've known for years, DOE. I thought it was essential for us to find our way together. And we're here together, but it's how we walk out of this room that's really going to determine whether or not we just talk to each other. And that's a good thing. And I think it's been long overdue. A couple of quick things about me. My bio was up there before, and it's really not important. I've been involved with swimming for 50 years at a whole lot of levels, working with developmentally disabled people, to senior citizens, to NCAA Division I water polo people and NCAA Division I swimmers. I coached several of the people that are part of your organization, and it's nice to see the flow that people are giving back. And that's one of the unique things about aquatics. Everyone kind of finds a way to give back, and it's really up to us to find a way and a vehicle to put them in a place where they can pass the knowledge on. Okay, so me, a kid in Flatbush, Brooklyn. I grew up here. Brooklyn Prep had a swimming pool. I ended up going to day camp. I walked there. They taught me to swim. I walked to the Flatbush YMCA across from Erasmus Hall. I swam competitively as a little kid in the CYO. I then went to Erasmus Hall, the The Farragut Pool was a private pool in Brooklyn by the Philip Howard. I swam there in the summers. This place. That's how old it is. But it was a puddle that I could get access and get familiar with the water. When I went to high school, I wanted to find a way to college. And my high school had a pool. It was a 4-lane pool, shallow, deep, in a dungeon. And I swam there, and I was pretty good. And I didn't feel I was getting enough, but I found Tilden High School on the bus ride home, and I swam with adult swimmers to get to the point where I could earn a scholarship, a partial scholarship to college, and I ended up at St. Francis. And that's where a bigger story begins. St. Francis College, in just 100 yards from here, didn't have a pool, so we swam at the public baths in Bedford Avenue, 4-lane with stairs that went in and out. When you left the pool, back then I had hair, it turned green. But it was a place for us to gather, to train and move on, waiting for our pool to be built. There was a Pierpont pool. There was the Hotel St. George that had a magnificent saltwater pool, magnificent place. And so that was the beginnings. The pool, I went to St. Francis because they promised the pool. Years previous to that, in my neighborhood, my Brooklyn College, they had promised the pool, at a YMCA. They put a picture in the window of a 4-lane, 6-lane pool with diving boards and everything. Harry, it was going to be great. And never got built. 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade. It never got built. To this day, it never got built. So I feel the pain of accessibility for everybody, because as a child, I was looking for water someplace because I was good at it. I played basketball, I played stickball, and us swimmers know that that's the coaches in particular. That's where we lose a lot of the kids to other entities, gaming and such. Brooklyn College is an example, city of New York. Frustration for me. They built the Ingersoll pool, they had the Roosevelt pool, and now they have the Plaza pool, all in my lifetime. 3 pools, built, knocked down, built, knocked down, built again. And then the accessibility for my friend from Midwood can't get access as a high school swimming coach to that space. He's adjacent, as close as that wall, to Brooklyn College. His team could walk there. And then Michael gets a grant to teach lifeguard training, and we struggle to find a place to land 10 kids for a couple hours a week to find a place to become lifeguard trained. Brilliant, Mike, and he killed himself to do this. Scoured every place to find a place and an instructor to make it happen. So I now live in Rockaway Beach. I can't swim if I go to work because, one, there isn't a lifeguard on my beach or for a mile either way from where I live. Woe is me. It's not the end of the world. But even when there were lifeguards and there wasn't construction of jetties, if I worked, I couldn't swim because there's no lifeguard there until 9. And I can't swim when I come home because they leave at 6. Problem for local residents and people who just want to get cool. So that's why there are so many drownings. New York Parks, New York City Parks might want to extend the workday. When I was at Rockaway Lifeguard, 8 to 4, 9 to 6, 10 to 7, you at least extended the day, and they offered overtime on particularly hot days. That doesn't happen anymore, but it's just a possibility. And just to the lifeguard thing, I just want to make a couple of comments. One, if we follow the rule of maybe Los Angeles and put the lifeguard operation under public safety, fire departments, EMS, it might be done a little more smoothly. It might be. And then right now, as the lifeguards are leaving this particular season, why not qualify them now for next year? it's within the year scope for CPR. It's in with the year scope of their certification, and you could have them already built in, and maybe a refresher course plugs them in, just as an example.
Carl, may I just also jump on that for a moment? All of us recognize that our warm season is expanding. So it's not even sufficient enough to do open beaches and pools for July and August, when we should be having them from May to September, October. I understand that this puts tremendous stress on a situation that is already stressed, but it is our reality, and that reality is only going to increase, not decrease.
That's a great point. That's a great point, just to keep it in perspective. But the New York City Parks, I think Michael and I spoke about this as an initiative, and because we couldn't get a pool, but the lifeguards who qualified to take the class, the 16-week class, were not capable of getting fully qualified, because I think there's a 50-yard swim and a distance swim, 35 seconds for 50 yards, 45 seconds just to take the exam, the class. So we were thinking during the period of time that we would set up a way that someone could streamline off the wall, get a little, pick a second up here or there, and be able to qualify by the end. Because during the class, it's a class. They're not teaching the individuals to swim, and you still had to find a place to get those seconds and get more competent at swimming. So that's one of my bugaboos.
So in other words, having a class and not having any opportunity to continue to build your skill
Correct.
isn't helpful.
Okay, so St. Francis College, and I'm retired there a few years, and I was there a long time as an athlete, as a coach, as an athletic director, as an aquatic director. We rented the pool, as an example, to senior swimmers in the morning. Got a grant, like everyone's getting grants, and it was the fountain of youth for them. We had college classes, we had NCAA Division I teams, 4 of them. We had Special Olympics, we had groups of wounded warriors, lifeguard training 2 or 3 times a year. We had a partnership with the Terrier Water Polo Club and Swimming Club and the Brooklyn Heights Water Polo Club. We had about 60 or 70 kids that were swimming as part of that. We had Xavier High School. We had Xaverian High School, St. Edmunds High School, PSAL teams, CHSAA teams, all in there. When I walked the beach in Coney Island to visit my friends, they were manned by kids that swam, not directly, but indirectly, at St. Francis. Without the things that St. Francis provided, and this is not me, this is St. Francis. They wouldn't have swam. They might not be lifeguards. So having that opportunity to compete on a Sunday morning with Kathy Kirker and her group and the CYO, we lose a whole bunch of people, and that accessibility ends up fighting us down the road.
It's the pipeline that you're
Yeah,
talking.
and thank you. On a collegiate level, and even locally, I mentioned it before, the Catholic Youth Organization has a swim thing with all the parishes in Brooklyn. And it doesn't matter, whether you're Catholic or Jewish or Protestant, everyone is invited to participate. They have struggled to find access. Some of the teams are 50 strong or more. They're at Richmond Hill, they're at Fort Hamilton High School, but they can't have their gathering at a championship, the ultimate goal at the end of the year in New York City. There's no venue. There is no venue. St. Francis College, Division I NCAA team, even Columbia and NYU have to go for their championships outside of the New York City area. Princeton has a beautiful pool. West Point has a beautiful pool. All those places. A few years ago, we actually swam our swim championships at Eisenhower Park. Just as an example, Eisenhower Park. I don't know if you're familiar with swimming, like maybe some of the people here. 50 meters, 10 lanes. Beautiful, built by Ted Turner's group. for the Goodwill Games. Hofstra University, the same size pool, 50 meters, 8 lanes wide. Nassau Community College, stone's throw away. 8 lanes, 25 yards, and a diving tank. That's where our children were swimming. It's crazy. It's crazy that those pools were within a mile radius of each other. And in addition to that, the man who ran their swim club bought a pool from the World Championships or the United States Olympic Trials. He bought it for a used temporary pool that was put in a convention center in Iowa, where they held the championships. He stored it for 5 to 10 years until he got space at Eisenhower Park and built another pool.
The warm-up pool.
The warm-up pool, 50 meters. I mean, I'm telling you, this is it. So if you just look at this, it's a temporary pool that is in ground and they put a bubble over it. Okay, so this is the crux of my presentation. Is it's really simple. And I feel these ladies here that work so hard, and this gentleman who worked so hard to find water. I did. I didn't have an all-deep pool for my NCAA Division I water polo team. They were hitting their ankles on the bottom of the pool. It was not easy. This particular unit, with real estate so expensive in New York, can easily be put in a Robert Moses pool, Red Hook, Astoria pool. Drop it in September, after the season's over, put a bubble over it, take it down in May, put it back in the box, and you're done. Locker rooms are there, showers are there, everything is there. The same, this is the Red Hook pool. The same with the Eisenhower complex. They built it adjacent to it, so there's a little hallway that's covered in a bubble, and they use the same locker room facilities that are for the people who use the Eisenhower permanent complex. Brown University, because the reason I know this is the Red Hook pool. Brown University was building a new facility. They've got oodles of money. And when St. Francis, I knew, was going down, I was charged with trying to find a place for us, our teams, to compete if we were going to stay in the sport business. Unfortunately, we didn't. But during that process, I asked the people at Brown, when you were building the pool, what did you do? They said, we got a temporary pool from Mertha. We put it literally in the backyard, 30 meters by 20 meters, put a bubble over it, and had it for 5 years while their pool was being built.
Paul,
Five
doesn't this sound like a great idea?
$5 million.
For the city?
Listen how even crazier it is. $5 million it cost to put that up. Albeit it was a few years ago, maybe 7 years, 5 to 7 years ago. But $5 million. Okay. After those 5 years, I just asked the question, what did you do with the pool? Did you still have it? Did we buy it? You know, what's the deal? They sold it for $4 million. They sold it for $4 million, so it had intrinsic value even going forward. I don't want to take up a lot of your time, but I throw that out there as opportunities are there. The properties at those sites are city properties, and it would be maybe a public-private partnership, which can get a little dicey, but it will get people into an aquatic space that it looks just like that one. It doesn't take an awful lot. Our board member of our ICW, Gene Spatz, played for the Detroit Tigers. And when we had a conversation a few weeks ago, he said when he played baseball there, he knew the Gronkowski family. I said, well, that's great. He goes, well, they built bubbles. So if you just ask and you just put it on the table, there's a possibility that things can come together, whether it's through the Y or whatever. So what would a pool like that be? Instead of the CYO kids going out to Long Island, you could have the site there. The kids that become the competitive swimmers or the water polo players or the lifeguards would aspire to swim at the pool that's there. I mean, we love going to Eisenhower, but it's not even in New York City. It's outside. And we don't get access. Well, Lehman has a nice pool, not enough stands. Assault Green has a beautiful pool. But as big as the stands are, they really can't handle it. And they have an awful lot of usage going on. And just as an example, St. Francis and part of their league, Sacred Heart, Wagner College and such, had to pay to go to Ohio for a swim championship. $20,000 for the rental. So you can pick your moments and it does pay for itself. I'll leave you with this. At St. Francis, with all this usage and 4 varsity teams, plus diving, without even working hard at it, although imagine swimming was a major contributor to the coffers. $500,000 we brought in, day camps and such, and it put our students to work. And our students benefited just from the fact that they interacted with all the users. I thank you for your time. I thank you, Michael. I thank you all.
Thank you, Carl. I'm sure we have questions for Carl. Really? Paul, what do you think?
It's beyond your pay grade.
But it's a great idea, isn't it? I mean, we have so many public pools that are not available year round, right?
Oh, in terms of Rockaway, just I made some notes here. For the same circumstance, the Dayton Towers complexes, the pool that you're currently using, Breezy Point Surf Club, all could be possibilities. But, you know, politically, I work with the Schumer Foundation, Congressman Schumer, before he was Senator Schumer. And we had a pool being built at Reese Park as part of the federal government. And we had $500,000 to design it. And when he became senator, it was kind of moved along. When Congressman Weiner took over, we were involved with Aviator. And the plan was hockey rink, swimming pool, gymnastic event, basketball courts. Because he's a hockey guy, we got a hockey rink, another hockey rink, and he didn't get a pool. And it's a shame. So this group, and with, you know, can be influential. Sorry.
We're probably going to build new pools faster than we're going to dome old pools. We do have a few new indoor pools coming online at Nostrand Park in Brooklyn, and Roy Wilkins is getting another indoor pool. That's probably going to happen faster than the doming can happen. The problem is the guts, right? I mean, those filter plants are ancient at Red Hook, and a filter plant alone is going to cost $50 million.
The Mercury pool comes ready to go.
If I may, before, I just would encourage everyone to go and look into other alternatives now that we've advanced design and engineering. Before you guys spending $50 million to renovate old pools, there's a couple of companies I can set you up with too that are really trying to decarbonize pools. They're right. They're horrible emitters for heating purposes. And there's a lot of advancements happening in design and engineering to do that on renovated pools that is in that price range too. So before we start jumping into that, I just want to make sure everyone can explore current technologies and engineering processes and design solutions that are out there that are perhaps better suited for contemporary times.
And the design of the pool, the width, the length, depth, all become extremely important. And whoever the stakeholders are should be involved instead of building a pool where you can't dive in or you can't do those things.
Multifunction, multi-use.
Bring it back up with Iris. I'm sure she'd be a fan. Iris Rodriguez.
Oh yeah,
our first deputy commissioner.
Thank you.
Great. Well, I want to thank you all for your participation today and for your patience, hearing all of us out. And I guess I'm the cleanup crew. So my name is Sean Slevin, and I am the founder and executive director of Strong Foundation. We're 17 years young as a not-for-profit, and our mission is to reduce unintended drowning and water-based accidents. And as you might guess, part of that is being in the pool and actually delivering swim lessons. And we've done that for over 10,500 people to date. We've given over $1 million in free swim lessons to date. And about 225 plus of our students have graduated out of lifeguard training and primarily work for the Parks Department. And we, of course, are looking to increase that. We have another 59 young men and women who have joined the military, the Coast Guard and the Navy, based on swimming skills they've been able to get with us. And we work with veterans, adaptive swim programs, really age 3 through seniors. So our focus is getting as many people in the pool as possible. We also have an educational component. Sandy really made a difference to me. It kind of hit me when Superstorm Sandy hit that we weren't doing enough with just swim lessons. We really had to help people understand situational knowledge of water, because as climate is changing around us, we are having more and more water brought to us. The reality is no longer can we avoid water. So we need both the swimming skills and we need the knowledge of water much more broadly than simply recreational. So I want to talk a little bit about SwimStrong's understanding of what an aquatics culture might look like. It is the knowledge of and the skills in the water which sustains our lives. And this water knowledge includes managing risk associated with water, particularly as climate change is bringing much more water into our lives and that we can no longer avoid it. It also encompasses safe drinking water, the management of wastewater, the vibrant health of our bodies of water to sustain marine life and safe transport through the water. All of this falls under what is now known as the blue economy, and there's going to be lots of job opportunities in this space and time in the years to come. And then, of course, on a personal level for all of us, the skills to enjoy the health, recreational, and occupational benefits of water. So I like to think of an aquatics culture as being one from cradle to grave. And sadly, in the cohort of children 5 and younger in the United States, we lose 400 children a year to drowning. It's the leading cause of death for toddlers here in the United States. And most of those kids are dying in their own homes. What can we do about this? If we can partner with health institutions, and one of the bills that actually, I believe Stacey Feffermato has put forward will bring a requirement from the health department to create a film that newborn parents of newborns will have to see before they take their children out of the, home from the hospital. But we can supplement that with materials that can go into the Go kits for newborn parents, but also any place else that a child and a family would intersect with healthcare, whether that's the pediatric office, whether that's the trauma center, whether that's an emergency room, whatever that is, but to get information out to parents so they can start looking at their homes and assessing it for water risk, very much the same way they do for electrical risk, right? Nobody wants the little one putting their finger in the socket and getting electrocuted, right? Well, we don't want them drowning either at home, right? So I think we can do some good work there. And there are programs. I don't know anybody that might be here that works with very young children, but there are programs available, acclimatization programs for infants from age 6 months going forward. So ages 5 to 10, of course, the good work that's being done in our schools. Schools are really a big portion of this. How ideally we would be able to have every child with some ability to swim before they left grammar school. Wouldn't that be cool? Wouldn't that be cool? First, you have to teach them the dangers and the benefits of water, and then teach them how to swim. And certainly the second grade program, Swim for Life, is one of those aspects. Many of us around the table have various programming that we work with, other non-for-profits that are building skills at this age. At this age, it is more likely that a parent is closely involved with their child as it comes to being around the water. When we move on into the middle school and high school years, though, that's not so much the case. And as we've sadly seen from the drownings that have happened just this year, most of these children are in middle school and high school. Okay. And I think all of them were boys, right? And boys tend to be risk-seeking missiles. I'll put it out there, okay? And so they need to really understand what that risk is that they're taking. And many of them don't. They're just playing, and they find themselves in situations that can take their lives. Also, at this point, we can be building more programming at the DOE to build out swimming skills specifically, to introduce children to competitive venues, competitive swim team and others. You know, there's 32 water-based sports. Did you know that? And if everybody could swim, imagine the opportunity to knock on all those doors and explore opportunities for socialization, right? As well as competition and expanding your social circles. We need junior lifeguard training. We need to build pipelines into the lifeguard capacity that we have here in New York City. And then also exposure to careers, aquatics careers. I'm going to name them. I have to look at my list here because there were so many I didn't realize myself. So of course, we think about lifeguards and water safety instructors and camp counselors, etc., swim and other aquatic sport coaching positions, recreational dive instructors, commercial divers, underwater welders, marine mechanic, rescue swimmers, Coast Guard, Navy, Marines. Those are my folks. Aquarium related work, aquaculture work, commercial fishing, hydrologists, oceanographers, marine biologists, naval architects, ship's captain and crew, meteorologists, airlines crew, blue economy jobs, etc. And I think we need to change lifeguarding and make it a first responder role. And that may be how we start to get some cachet to bring more kids to want to become lifeguards. Right? All right. As we get into the adults, of course, continue to pursue the opportunities that will allow them career in aquatics. As you can see here, the blue economy is definitely going to provide opportunity there. Imagine also partnering with healthcare organizations so that more programs for adults and elderly can be brought in. Aquatics programs, you know, there is nothing better for our health than swimming. It is the total body workout, bar none, nothing better. And it is the only type of activity that is life-saving, and it is the only one that truly is womb to tomb. Right? We can swim all our lives, and we should be. So all of you that are sitting here and that may not have swimming skills yourself, you better boogie on down to Swim Strong and let's get them. Okay? All right, so we have all of this going on. I would also say to you here as adults, we know that there is a tremendous lifeguard shortage here, all right? What if, just what if, we changed it up and we had a certification that allowed the person to guard the facility, have the skills for the facility, not necessarily a one-size-fits-all certification. So we have, for example, I believe at Parks and Rec, there's 58 facilities, and of those 58 facilities, 12 are actually swimming pools, and the rest are, I think, splash pads and wading pools, right? You certainly don't need to have the qualifications of a beach lifeguard or even a pool lifeguard who's sitting at a McCarran or an Astoria pool to guard a splash pad. You don't. And imagine if we opened that up, how many people, older folks, would be involved to be able to guard those facilities. We would open up pipeline of talent into lifeguard positions. I am proud to say that the city has hired lifeguards over 60. I think there was an article recently, 4 or 5 of them. I'm not remembering the number. The YMCA's also, 2 of those swim strong coaches over 60, now lifeguarding at the Ys. So I'm saying to you, we depend a lot because we think about lifeguards coming from our youth, but we can have lifeguards at multiple ages, okay, guarding different facilities if we think differently about how we manage the certifications. So what supports this type of a culture? The infrastructure to allow for safe, equitable access to multi-use swimming pools and open water venues. And that means sharing the space. I can speak specifically to Kate and I because we have very small programs, although we're making big impact. But there are times where we just don't have swimming space, and we've asked our partners. We actually swam at the Aquatics Center at Flushing before Parks had resumed the management of it. We want to continue to swim in that venue because it allows us to do our cradle to grave competitive swimming as well as our learn to swim program. And I understand that there's pressure. There's definitely pressure. We want pool space and time for our membership, but an organization such as ours and Kate would take a very little footprint to be utilizing the space of organizations such as yourselves or the JCCs, the DOE, et cetera. So I think we all need to lean in is really where I'm coming out on this, that we all need to share the space, particularly until we build more facilities, more access on open water, more lifeguards, et cetera. Right now, we're all hurting. We all should be sharing. And then, of course, legislation to ensure resources directed to build that infrastructure, education and communication campaigns, and that cachet around aquatic related jobs, and particularly the lifeguards. And I'm just looking around, I don't know, Perry, was it you that mentioned that your kids, they didn't really think being a lifeguard was cool? Somebody did mention that. And I was like, wow, because I was, I'm old, but I was a lifeguard and it was like the coolest thing to be a lifeguard. But I'm hearing that, I can get the same amount of money in a retail environment. Why put myself to all the trouble of getting the certification and then at risk, with doing the job? So somehow we have to create a better cachet around lifeguards as well. Sure.
From the space we are now, it's society so cool as leisure. Like it doesn't feel as like, I don't know, like the life or death circumstance to like a modern generation. And of course they don't feel reliant on like helping another child learn, and like maybe people don't even like it anymore. It's like that perspective is really changing for society. And I think like people need to remind themselves like as a village, we all have to help each other. And that can ultimately lend to more, modern lifeguards to this day. People have to like support each other in that.
Yeah, I thank you. I think that kind of speaks to that communication campaign point that we really need to be showcasing lifeguards in all of their attributes. And I would also say, I lifeguarded myself for, I don't want to tell you how many years on a lake, not a beach, not an ocean front. But, sitting in a chair for 8 hours is pretty brain draining. You have to be on point all the time. You're always looking out there. I think even if we were to change it up and offer the lifeguard an opportunity to do some training in the immediate facility, right? So get off the chair, go out, talk to the people that are there, give them training tips and tools, and kind of circle that around, you'd have more interest also in the job. If they knew they were going to be trained to be pool operators, for example. Career paths for lifeguards too, particularly into our EMT, FDNY, NYPD, right? So there's opportunities, I think, to increase the cachet, but we need a lot of creative minds around that. All right, and lastly, New York is a maritime city. We are a city of water, and together all of us can create this culture that really does prioritize situational knowledge of water and swimming skills. To get the appropriate infrastructure, which will support our training and development of aquatic knowledge and skills, rebrand the lifeguarding role as first responders, and attain public safety management strategies in response to climate change that are really cutting edge. I don't want to have to continue to tell my peers on a global basis that New York City is an aquatic desert. Changing that dynamic is where it's at. So thank you so much for your attention. And any thoughts? Anybody else? This is Swim Strong's thought of the aquatic culture. So you all, others, I'm sure you have ideas too. So please, we'll take 2 minutes and put them out there. Put them out there so we can record them. Please. Can you come and speak at the mic because the people on Zoom can't hear you? Thank you so much.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nina Ukwomo, and I'm the founder and CEO of Student Dream. We're a financial education nonprofit, and we train Black and Brown youth to build wealth through courses and content around personal finance, investing, entrepreneurship, music licensing. But we build community with the students through holistic activities and life skills, such as physical health and wellness, basketball, swimming. And my question was, what are the requirements in the public school system when it comes to learning how to swim? I know we mentioned that the public school system has been essential in helping to promote this, but has there been any policy recommendations put forth to make this a requirement in schools?
So I'm going to ask the educators in the room to rise and speak to that issue. We have some educators in the room. Have they all left? Okay, well then, do you have?
I don't think there's a requirement for swimming in New York State, if that's your question.
Yeah, because I think that's just, when I think about scaling initiatives, what's the very simple, easy lift? Well, if kids are already in school, if there's local pools nearby, there could be an easy, pretty simple partnership, obviously red tape aside, but the pools are there, the schools are there, the periods are there. What's being done to really partner together and collaborate to make this a required part of their 8 hours in school?
Yeah. I don't think that is the case, and I can't remember when it last was, but go ahead.
No, I don't think there's a requirement, but I'll challenge anyone to look up the name of Jalen Alston. All right. Jalen Alston, right, I can think of the case where if in schools or access in the community, we're just talking about access, right? Jalen, Jalan, Alston, Alston. And for me, my introduction to, I guess, swimming happened in, I went to New York City public schools, but it happened in Norfolk, right? Because that was a requirement to graduate from Shaw University, right? I talked to 2 physical education teachers, walking distance from here. They both were certified out of New York City. Their introduction to swimming. Jalen Austin was one of their students, walking distance from here, who graduated and not too long ago, a couple of years ago. They started giving out a Warriors Award. That Warriors Award is based on Jalen Austin, who saw a friend in the East River and jumped in the East River to save his friend. He had 2 teachers that were certified lifeguards that couldn't teach Jalen Austin how to swim. One, because of access, right? And intentionality, I would say. The other, the intentions and the will. Jalen Austin transition, jumping in after his friend. There was teachers that can teach, that could have taught that. Swimming, aquatic skills, open up those avenues, right? Vlad does it. He's an educator. He understands the power of aquatics, water safety, right? Jalen had the courage and have the community, right? The friendship to go in after his friend, but he couldn't swim. If that was a requirement, who knows? Right? But it's not just in schools. We don't let school get in the way of education. That's why we're here. Right? So I'll say that name, Jalen Austin, and that Warriors Award. That's why we move, and that's why we have to come up with solutions, right? No fingers being pointed, but action. When we leave this room, what are we going to do about it?
And I think that is the way to wrap it up. So what can we do about it? Mike, do you want to just take it home?
First of all, thanks to all of the presenters. Thank you, Carl. You were telling me that. Thanks to everybody for being here. Thanks, Sean and Perry and Carl and Cynthia. Peter was here. Yeah. All of us, because this is an all of us thing. And just to keep it simple, as we walk out of here and we can go back to our typical lives and, think about the things we think about, or look at it a different way and find out what kind of connections. I think everybody in this room has something to offer for an extended and continued conversation. In fact, that's going to be my next task, is taking all the people that have been in contact here, connecting you all up. I think we all know what each of us can bring to the table, and then keep discussing if it takes another situation like this or a Zoom discussion or whatever is to make that happen. So, because, we're here for a reason, right? And the reason is to make good change, and whatever we can do for that. So I think that's enough out of me. Again, thank you all so much. And I'll be in touch.
Thank you.